Hi, I am Patricia Mata, and my partner Madison Baumruk and I have created a thematic unit lesson plan for the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. We created this for our ELL Methods and Materials class for Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So this thematic unit lesson plan is for the subject of literature, and it's best used for students of the intermediate or even advanced proficiency level. And it would be used for 7th graders. And the theme of this unit is the morals in the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. So I'll be walking you through lesson 2 of this lesson plan. So lesson 2 covers chapters 6 through 9. The skills of this lesson would be reading, listening, and speaking. However, the focus skill for the students would be reading. The theme is having a heart or willingness to help others, and it would be delivered for about 60 to 70 minutes over a span of 2 days, but it could be adjusted as necessary. So the Oklahoma English Language Arts, ELA standards would be, so the first one would be students will engage in collaborative discussions about appropriate topics and texts, expressing their own ideas, clearly building the ideas of others in pairs, diverse groups, and whole class settings. The second standard would be students will orally read grade level text at an appropriate rate, smoothly and accurately, with expression that connotes comprehension. So out of these two standards, we have created a linguistic, cognitive, and socioaffective. We've created linguistic, cognitive, and socioaffective objectives. So the linguistic objective states that in small groups, the students will be able to take turns reading aloud the text at an appropriate rate, smoothly and accurately with expression that connotes comprehension. The cognitive and socioaffective objective states in small groups, the students will be able to logically answer discussion questions based on the moral of the text by expressing their own ideas and building on the ideas of their peers. So the materials that would be used in this lesson are, so the students would be required to have their own copy of the book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. Hopefully they all have the same format so that when you assign page numbers, they would all have corresponding pages. The teacher should also have their own copy of the movie version of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So this is so that you could show a short clip from the film that corresponds to the assigned reading of this lesson, so chapter 6 through 9. The teacher should have a computer and screen, whiteboard and marker, an English dictionary, so this could be a physical or online dictionary, but we recommend having both. The teacher should also have paper copies of the peer assessment evaluation sheet. So later on, the students will be doing small group readings. So they would be assessing their peers. So if you're dividing them into groups of 3, the students should have a copy of 2 evaluation sheets to be assessing 2 of their peers. So it depends on how the students are divided. The teacher should also distribute copies later on of the discussion questions, so 1 copy per student. So these are the discussion questions. They're kind of long, which is why we want you to have a printed copy of this so that the students not only follow it, they don't follow it just by listening, but they can also read along. And then, so for the first part of this lesson would be the review and vocabulary. So the teacher should be telling the class what they will be learning. So that's chapters 6 through 9. And the teacher should ask the students to bring out their copies of the novel. And then the teacher will be reviewing chapters 6 through 9. So the teacher should ask the students what they remember, the events that they remember, either per chapter or the reading as a whole, and then eventually summarize the reading. And then you can even ask them specific questions as you go along. And then you would be going over their assignment. So their assignment was to write unfamiliar vocabulary words and the page number that they found it on based on the assigned reading. And then so you would ask them to share the unfamiliar vocabulary words that they found in the reading and then discuss the definition and context, which is the importance of writing the page number. And then you would ask the class if they know what it means, and then you could look it up. You could look up the definition either on an online or physical dictionary. And it would be best to use or best to give them visual examples of the vocabulary words that are not familiar to them, and then even use it in other sentences. And then afterward would be the reading assessment. So this covers the linguistic objective of the lesson. So the teacher would be doing an echo reading of pages 95 to 96. So if you're using a similar format that I'm using of the book, pages 95 to 96 should be the first 2 pages of chapter 9 of the book. And then you would want to explain what echo reading is. So echo reading is basically the teacher will read a section of the text and the students will be echoing it back. So they will be reading back to you what you read first the same way that you read it. But you have to remind the class that they're not merely repeating what you're saying, but they should be able to follow. They should be able to follow as you're reading. So they have to follow along with the text as you're reading, not merely just copying. And then after doing an echo reading, you would be dividing the students into groups of 2 or 3. So you want to pair the stronger readers with the readers that may need more assistance. Have them take turns reading aloud at an appropriate rate, smoothly and accurately, and with expression. So they would be reading page 97, and then have them continue until the chapter ends or until time allows. So you can have them take turns reading either paragraphs or pages based on your preference. And then they will be assessing their peers on this rubric. Oh, that's not right. This is the rubric, and then you would want to explain to them each criterion so that they know how to properly evaluate their peers. So the student would be checking yes if their peer met the criterion, somewhat if their peer almost or somewhat met the criterion, and no if they did not meet the criterion at all. But it's important that you explain each of these to them so that they can properly evaluate their peers. And you can even do a self-assessment with this, depending on your preference. They can do both a self-assessment and a peer assessment if that's what you want to do. And then part C would be the oral discussion. So this covers the cognitive and socioaffective objective of this lesson. So you would show a short clip from the film that corresponds to the assigned reading, but afterwards you would be facilitating a discussion. Like I said earlier, these were the discussion questions. have these printed out and distribute them to each student. And then the students will logically answer the discussion questions in small groups, building on the thoughts of their peers. Afterward, each group will share with the rest of the class what they discuss in their small groups. And then during the discussion, formatively assess the students on their knowledge and interpretation of the moral lessons they learned from the reading. Give feedback as necessary. So it's important to give direct and immediate feedback. So this would be the rubric for the class discussion. So you would have the students' names here, the criterion here, and then you would give them points. So 5 if the student met the criterion, 2.5 if they almost or somewhat met the criterion, and 0 if they did not meet the criterion at all. And then, like I said, it would be highly suggested that the teacher should be giving direct or immediate feedback to the students. And then to wrap up, the teacher should tell the students that they are assigned to read chapters 10 through 13 as their homework and continue listing unfamiliar vocabulary words as they're reading with a page number. And then you could even ask the students for their predictions of what will happen in chapters 10 through 13. You could ask them either to share that verbally or to write it down as homework, but that's up to you. But that is it for lesson 2 of the thematic unit lesson plan, The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis.